Hello everyone, great to have you on the channel here of MeteoMark Weather. We are looking at our first tropical storm of the Atlantic hurricane season. This is Andrea, by the way. It's going to become a remnant low just west of the Azores pretty quickly here, but there it is, our first tropical storm of the season before the end of June. And we're going to turn our attention to a couple areas as we head through July, especially early to mid-July. The Western Caribbean, the Gulf, and then I think this area out here, the intertropical convergence zone, is really going to start coming north here. Lesser Antilles, Caribbean islands here. So we're going to watch for major uptick in activity. There's some signals pointing to much stronger tropical waves, more numerous, and a little bit thinning of the Saharan dust. The Eastern Pacific is literally on fire with activity here. You can see another area likely to become our next tropical storm. And we'll look for a potential typhoon over the next week or two. This could come very close to Japan. And as the heat wave breaks finally in the eastern part of North America, does this mean storminess is going to make a return? Let's get into it. All right, everyone, we're starting off with the tropics. There is our first tropical storm of the season. It is out here, Tropical Storm Andrea, well northeast of Bermuda here. So here is Bermuda, and here are the Azores. It's moving around this periphery of high pressure. Here is Andrea. It's likely going to become a remnant low soon. So here we go. Do we have anything else on the horizon now that we got our first tropical storm of the season down? So these are the areas, as I said before at the beginning, that we're going to be watching. Much of the Western Caribbean, Western Gulf. Look at this big wave out here by the Cape Verde Islands. Very concerned we're going to see a big uptick as we head on into especially July, that second week. I think that's when things really start to get cranky. And I'll show you on the climate model, medium range climate model shortly as well. So as we continue out in time, look at these big waves coming off the coast of Africa. This is a big solid wave. Here's a strong wave as well, one moving through Trinidad, Tobago, and look at this big mess right around Nicaragua, Honduras, Belize. We're going to watch that move up into the Bay of Campeche here, but as you can see, a lot of the energy also moving into the Eastern Pacific here. Still, a tremendous amount of rain. We're going to go over those rainfall amounts momentarily, but I want to focus your attention to the activity increase out here. Look at this. Yeah, you see all this grayness to the north. This is the low, high and low dust counts here. So the Saharan dust is still with us, but I think that's going to come down in concentration over the next couple weeks. And here it is. You got some strong tropical waves out here. A little bit of a lull out here south of the Cape Verde Islands, but we can go into Africa here and see. Look at this. Yeah, they're starting to line up here. They're not tremendously strong, but they're there. And as we continue in time, yeah, we see a little bit of a clearness here into the northwestern Caribbean right around June 30th. But look at this feature east of Nicaragua and southeastern Trinidad and Tobago. These areas we're going to watch as high pressure continues to solidify and build west here into the Eastern Gulf and Caribbean. Now, one thing to note, this is where something starts to happen here around Florida and the Gulf here. So it's going to be really interesting to see. This is a very strange area on the western periphery of this high pressure. You got these strong tropical waves moving through parts of the Caribbean. During this time, look at Jamaica, the Cayman Islands look pretty clear. Some showers moving through Dominican Republic. And as we go through time here, you can see July 1st, here's a wave right around Nicaragua. It's going to start to blossom as it moves towards Honduras and Cancun here, Yucatan. All in all, it starts off a little bit quiet. Here's a wave moving just southeast to Trinidad, Tobago. Another wave, strong wave coming off the coast southeast of the Cape Verde Islands here. So as we go out in time, further into July here, here's July 3rd. This is where we start to see a little bit of a flare up here into the Western Caribbean. In this area, here in the Gulf, showing up a little bit further east on the Urals. I'll show you just momentarily in a couple minutes here. This area around the Yucatan we'll have to watch as well. We head into that first week right around July 4th. Now you start to see something out here. Here's the dust really starting to retreat here to the north. That's definitely going to be a factor as it lifts and you start to clear things out here. Look at the intertropical convergence zone bouncing further to the north here. Lots of tropical moisture around this strange entity around Florida. We'll continue to watch it here. Western Caribbean, also another wave moving through. Here's our last frame. So this is setting us up July 7th. I think this is after, as we get into the second and the midpoint of July, this is where things are really going to start cranking. And here it is into the interior part of Africa. As we just put this into motion, the intertropical convergence zone, you can see where these waves are going to be coming from, and the activity is really going to start to line up right around July 6th here. Look at this. This is quite a bit in the way of wave action as we continue through the mid part of July. You can see a lot of these becoming much stronger as we go out here in time. And thanks for Tropical Tidbits here for our European model analysis. I'll show you the European with the Caribbean and Gulf, Western Atlantic zoomed in, and then we'll zoom out to the rest of the Atlantic here. So look at this. As we head into Wednesday, there is a couple areas of concern. We have a strange area of low pressure here. This is a massive tropical wave, and we also have a tropical wave down here southeast of Trinidad Tobago that's going to be providing gusty winds and heavy rain. Don't forget, we're going to get into those rainfall amounts here in a couple minutes, but here we go. As we go through Wednesday into Thursday, European model is really showing this, picking up on this pretty good. Lots of heavy rain from the Cayman Islands, clipping parts of Jamaica as well, through Belize, Honduras, and we're even going to get in the act here at Cancun. So the European is really going strong with this. One thing to note by Friday, though, look what starts to happen with it. You start to see the evidence that the energy is kind of pushing into the Eastern Pacific. Seems like the Eastern Pacific is just on fire with these storms, but it does start to flare back up around the Yucatan here. We'll keep an eye out because the European does want to keep taking this, another piece of energy further north here into the Gulf. Now, this is why I think July could be much more active for tropical storms, potential hurricane, lots of tropical waves like this. Look at how the intertropical convergence zone is bouncing further north here towards the central Lesser Antilles. Even the northern Lesser Antilles getting some heavy rain right around Saturday into Sunday, the 28th and 29th here. You start to see these waves heading right towards Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Haiti, southeastern Bahamas, Turks and Caicos. So this is going to be really interesting. Also, South Texas, coastal Texas, you may get clips with some of this moisture. Whatever happens with this system, if it does develop, Texas, you still may be in play here, so we'll keep an eye on it. So here we go through Sunday into Monday of next week, June 30th, last day of June. You can see another area of low pressure here into the southern Caribbean. Also, we have a disturbance right around Jamaica at this time, so you might get some heavy rain showers. Also, this area around Florida continues to get more and more strange. The good thing is it may actually provide Florida with some beneficial rain here. We'll see. Lots of tropical moisture here across the southeastern U.S. Now, look what starts to happen out here. We're going to push through July 3rd and 4th. We do start to get more in this way of big wave action here. This one around just south of Jamaica. You see the intertropical convergence zone down here, a little weak wave. Now look at this. As we push towards July 6th into the 7th, you don't see anything really that crazy until right around this time frame. You can see Wednesday, July 9th, this big wave moving through the northeastern Caribbean islands. We'll bear watching to see if we're going to see this big uptick that's being shown on some of the climate models as we go through the month of July. All right, so let's go back a bit here. I want to show you the intertropical convergence zone out here. You see how far to the south it is? Here's the Cape Verde Islands here. Big area of high pressure over by the Azores. So we'll just spin this in time. Look how this starts to bounce to the north. I wanted to show you the big picture of this. Starts to push towards the Lesser Antilles here. And you're starting to get these big waves moving off the coast of Africa here. Now, just to the north, you got a lot of Saharan dust. I think that's going to slowly let up as we go throughout, the first and second half of July here. So things are going to start getting more active out here. You can see through July 4th, we got some pretty big waves moving off the coast. And as these slowly push more to the north in time, here's a little area of low pressure trying to initialize right around July 8th. Also, these fronts along let's get this out of the way, these fronts along the U.S. East Coast, especially the tail end right around Florida where things starting to get a little weird there through the first and the second week of July. Look at this, right around July 9th, the last frame of the European model. Look at this. You got a strong tropical wave out here, potential disturbance. They're just going to start lining up, and then you got all this disturbance action here in the northeastern Caribbean islands. All right, let's take a look at our sea surface temperature analysis. Look at the Eastern Gulf, Western Atlantic, and Northwestern Caribbean. Well above average. We are looking at a 1 to as much as 3 degrees above average. Look at through much of the Southern and Eastern Caribbean, through much of the rest of the Atlantic here, through the Cape Verde Islands. This is the result of, that dust, that Saharan dust. So that's going to continue to lighten up as we go out in time. All right, so the European model here into the Western Caribbean, Gulf, and Caribbean Islands, Central America. Look at this. This takes us through the weekend. Unfortunately, it looks like Jamaica is only picking up around 20 to 40 millimeters on average, locally higher in the eastern part, Portland Parish area. Belize through northeastern Honduras here, these areas picking up close to 110, 115, 125 millimeters. But look at this. As we go into the following week, the same areas are really getting a surge in moisture as we get these tropical waves moving northwest here. Jamaica and the Cayman Islands does start to moisten up here a bit. Some areas getting close to 60 to 90. Look at the eastern tip of Jamaica, though. 125 to 130 millimeters right around Portland Parish there, so watch out. Dominican Republic here, right around 40 to 60, with locally higher here in the red. Some of these reds getting upwards of 60, 70, 80 millimeters. All right, we're looking at the GFS here. Oh, it got off of our precipitation here, so let's get back to the precipitation. Total QPF here. There we go. So look at this. This week, you can see most of it clustered around Nicaragua, Belize, Honduras. These areas getting well over 100 and 150 millimeters. Jamaica, west and eastern tips, interestingly enough, up to 40, 50 millimeters. Cayman Islands a little dry on this model. So is Dominican Republic. Look at that. So it's not till next week. Look at that. Right around July 5th, we do start to see these areas around the Dominican Republic, Jamaica. Look at Central America, though. We may even get some here into Cancun as well as we get this surge of moisture up the coast. You can see, look at northeastern Honduras here, 300 millimeters. Belize, 280. Yeah, so Jamaica here, Cayman Islands, kind of a little dry around the Cayman Islands, 20 millimeters or less on average on this model. But yeah, parts of Jamaica, I would not be surprised if you get upwards of 60 to 100 millimeters. Same for Dominican Republic. It's not going to be equally distributed all over. But look at the eastern tip of Puerto Rico here. You could get up to 4 to 6 inches, but the rest of the island struggling to get to a quarter to a half an inch of rain. All right, here we go with the GFS into the Eastern Caribbean. Look at this. Through this weekend, it's pretty dry, except for Trinidad, Tobago down here up to 40, maybe 60 millimeters. Watch as we go all the way into July 6th here. Yeah, those last few frames, right around the 4th, 5th, and 6th, look what starts to happen. This is where I think the tropical wave action is really going to start to kick in. Right through the Northeast Caribbean islands, Trinidad, Tobago areas, the Lesser Antilles. Look at these areas, getting upwards of 100, 125 millimeters. And this surge is going to continue as we head into mid-July. All right, so here is our European run. Yeah, look how dry it is this week in the Eastern Caribbean. You just get a few showers until about Sunday. This is where things really start to moisten up. Trinidad, Tobago, all the way up to the Southern Virgin Islands here. Still a little bit dry here east of, Puerto Rico here. But look at Dominican Republic. You're getting upwards of 80 millimeters in some of these areas. And we start to see that surge right around July 9th here on the European model. So I really think things are really going to start to bounce as far as activity here. All right, so here we are with our CANSIPS model. Going to take a look as we get through July. So here's June. Here's the rest of June. You can see this pretty much lines up with what things have been happening here. Much of the southern, Western Caribbean, Western and Northeastern Gulf here. And there's the Intertropical Convergence Zone pretty far to the south. So that's our starting point. Here it is for July. This is why I'm a little concerned because, yeah, we have a couple areas here as the Intertropical Convergence Zone bounces north. Look at this area here around Trinidad, Tobago, heading into the Eastern Caribbean. Much of the Central and Western Caribbean, this area northeast of the Bahamas, and then much of the Gulf here. So this is a little concerning. I think activity is really going to pick up as we go throughout July. And look at August. This is where, look at the entire Caribbean here. the Cape Verde season really comes alive. I think we're going to see explosive development. And look at much of the Gulf here. In this area, we're going to see a lot of those recurving storms as well. However, watch this. As we get throughout September, yeah, it just continues. But the really curious thing is around Florida and the southeast coast, we have a negative correlation here, drier than average. But look at this. Look at the Cape Verde season. This is suggestive that a lot of them are going to recurve out here. Here's the Azores. Here's Bermuda. So it'll be interesting to see how this sets up. But I'm still expecting a lot of activity here. Very backloaded season as we go out in time. But look at this. This is October. We're still going to be looking at storms. All right, so for the Eastern Pacific, let's see what's going on here. We're definitely going to get some sort of tropical system forming in the next couple days to several days here. You can see this low pressure trying to initialize likely our next tropical storm as we're going like crazy here in the Eastern Pacific. As we get into the weekend, this thing could become a hurricane as it parallels the coastline. So it's going to be another dangerously close system as it moves just south of Acapulco here by early morning, June 30th. And you can see that really solidifies into a hurricane, thankfully moving away from Mexico, but it's still not far enough away to be comfortable here. So we're going to have to watch this, especially as this thing initializes. It still could be a problem, and it's too early to say whether it will make landfall or not. All right, so for the Western Pacific here, a tropical depression, Sepat here, is just sitting off the coast of Japan. This is not going to be much of a big deal. It's going to bring some gusty winds, heavy rain to parts of Tokyo area, these areas, Chiba. So watch out. Yeah. But the good news is it's going to be moving pretty fast. It's going to be out of here in a day or two. So what is our big attention here? Why am I covering this out here? Well, I know a lot of you like me to cover the Western Pacific here. Seoul, South Korea, looking pretty clear during this time. As we head into the last part of June, just a few showers, Japan drying out as well. But look what's brewing down here. I'm pretty certain at this point there's going to be either a tropical storm. Look at this, Guam. So here we go. Let's just stop it right about here. We can back this up. It looks like this area is just hanging out for days. So here it is. We're starting from the beginning. Look at this area. It does not move. This is Guam. And it's literally just moving back and forth across Guam. This could be very devastating to Guam as it develops into a typhoon by about June 28th, 29th. Look at this. It's just bouncing to the north, moving very slowly. And then it does start to get influenced by this frontal boundary, the north. It's drawn up here to the north. So we'll keep an eye on it for Guam here as we head over the next couple days. It does get pulled up here. Here's high pressure into the Gulf of Alaska way over here. And we'll have to see if this is strong enough to get caught up in this, because this area of low pressure does try to capture it. However, it seems like this typhoon keeps wanting to bend a little bit to the west here. The good news is, though, on this model, it's much further east to Japan, but I do caution you, the last couple runs of the GFS have brought it dangerously close here to the Japanese coast, so we'll keep an eye on it here. One thing to note, though, these storms that go off into the North Pacific like this one's going to be strengthening as it heads up towards the Aleutian Islands. It does have the ability to affect our weather in eastern North America. So kicking our future radar off here for North America, your North American outlook. Look at this. Yeah, high pressure, this heat dome just entrenched across the eastern part of North America. You only have this return flow, tropical moisture, and then this severe weather out here in the plains and the Midwest. As we go out in time, these mesoscale convective systems are going to start to pinwheel around this. You see over here, come noon hour on Wednesday the 25th here. You can see right over Minneapolis, St. Paul, over to, let me just back up here because you're going to start to see this really catch fire downwind here. Look at this. Watch this as we go out in time. Yeah, you see this explosion of showers and thunderstorms? We're going to watch for some of these becoming strong or severe. Look at the Carolinas as well. We got a lot of tropical moisture. Even the heat dome is starting to fill in here. And this is some good news. We're going to get some beneficial rain here, cool off a bit. Now, a lot of these are pop-up showers and thunderstorms. They fall apart with the diurnal heating, but look what gets cranking here on the northern side. These don't look as strong as the weekend derechos here, but look at this. Yeah, this is going to be a thing. Some of these storms will drop southward across New York State through noon hour on Thursday the 26th. Some of these could pack a punch. Look at this. Some of these cells really kicking up around Binghamton, Scranton area, and then a few over here southeastern New England. But yeah, it looks like most of these missing, these mesoscale convective systems missing the Ohio Valley here into parts of the mid-Atlantic. But as I said before, we'll watch up for those pop-up showers and thunderstorms continuing. And your severe weather outlook for your Wednesday, yeah, there is a big area here into the darker green. This is your very marginal risk, but still you could have a severe thunderstorm or two in this region. The area we're going to really focus on is the panhandle of Florida, southeastern Alabama, most of Georgia, south, and much of western and central North Carolina. Damaging wind, large hail, tornado threat running pretty good. And here we are again. We're looking for your Thursday. A little bit weaker of a chance, but we still can't rule out some of these marginal risk of shower, thunderstorm, severe weather potential. Picking up where our feature radar left off here as we go out here in time. Look at this. So as we pick up right around Thursday, eastern North America, you can see much of our low pressure storminess lifting up here into parts of Ontario and Quebec. We do drag a cold front through. Here it is, right around the 27th. There's that area of low pressure. A lot of the storminess up here in northern New England and southeastern parts of Canada. But look at this, the 28th around 8 a.m. So we're getting right into Saturday morning here. Yeah, that's where we're going to really start to see the front make a run for it. Northern Ohio here, we could see some convection form all the way through interior New York and Pennsylvania. We'll be watching. I think we could see some severe weather in this area. So we'll keep an eye on it here. Just back that up. There it is. Moving through parts of the Northeast early afternoon. And look at that. We get into New England here. We could get some severe weather as well, especially southeastern New England. Now look at that. Moves off the coast. You may be able to salvage a pretty good late part of the weekend here, a Sunday. But look at this. We start to see a more progressive pattern setting up here. You get these storminess moving to the north here. This across the southeast, we'll keep an eye on this because both the European, which I'll show you momentarily, I showed you on the tropical models too, it's picking up on something right around here, the Gulf, off the Florida coastline here. So we'll keep an eye on it here. It's definitely something to watch, and we have a lot of tropical moisture just hanging out here as well. So a lot can happen. You can get a spin up very easily on the tail end of these frontal boundaries as we head through the 3rd, 4th. Here's July 4th. Unfortunately, the morning of July 4th looks pretty rainy here through parts of the Outer Banks, down through Georgia, and then big storms out here in the plains. But look at as we progress throughout the day. Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like parts of eastern North Carolina look like a lot of rain, and then north central Gulf Coast here, and storminess up here into parts of the Northeast, or the parts of the Midwest here. But look at the Northeast. Very dry. Here's July 5th. For those of you that are waiting for the weekend for your cookouts, this will be pushing out, so eastern North Carolina looks better on the 5th. All this here across the Southeast, this looks like quite a washout. So it'll be interesting to watch here on the last frame. There is definitely something going on here. So let's take a look at the European model here as we go in time, picking up where our future radar left off. When I get into Thursday here, here's those showers and thunderstorms. Very interesting, high pressure because you got all these showers and thunderstorms here. But this one is the real big high here. So as we get through Friday, late Thursday, early Friday, it's starting to look like a lot of these MCS systems will run up and over this initial ridge. You do have a blocking high up here into Quebec that'll slowly drift eastward. But look at this. Yeah, I mean, we're not going to see widespread severe weather, but you can see a lot of shower and thunderstorm action here as we head through into the weekend as well. So kicking up some convection here. Doesn't look as widespread, but look at this. Right around noon, 2 p.m. here, northern Ohio. Looks like we got a complex trying to form here. Also, watch out. Some of these lines and storms could contain damaging wind. So some of these could be severe. So watch out as we break this heat wave. Now look at this. As we go through next Sunday into Monday, you can see we do get some of these mesoscale convective complexes here in the Midwest. That moves towards Ohio on Monday. Look at the explosion up here on Monday. Yeah, we're getting this vigorous area of low pressure, bringing a front through the area in a short wave. This could get us into some strong to severe thunderstorms. Want to draw your attention, I did mention this in the tropics, this weird area of disturbed weather here around Florida. We'll have to watch it here because if it persists, it could develop into something tropical, potentially. Look at this. It's just kind of hanging out here. This is through July 3rd, July 4th. That's going to be the big story in town here. And it tries to close off the U.S. East Coast. And then look at this. You get this big area of low pressure, super energizing here, some energy, and you could get an area of heavy rain, wind, and some strong thunderstorms on the southern end of this. So this could get pretty interesting here throughout parts of the mid-Atlantic right around July 6th and 7th. And then it tries to go coastal here, a coastal low in July. That's kind of crazy. But here we go through July 9th. This is the last frame. You see a lot of thunderstorm action here into the southeast. All right, so let's take a look at liquid equivalent precipitation amounts. I just want to draw your attention. I'll just show you through, here we go, Saturday, just to start out. This is classic ring of fire here. Look at this. Now, yeah, you are getting some showers and storms here from Florida, South Florida, up the Appalachians, parts of the interior Northeast as well, mid-Atlantic. But it's about a half to 3/4 of an inch on average. The big stuff with the MCSs are way up here into parts of the Midwest and then getting into parts of Ontario and Quebec and northern part of New England. Now watch this as we get into next week. We're going to start to equally distribute this throughout much of the East. And look at this. European is really holding on to this potential tropical disturbance around Florida. We'll keep an eye on it. It's basically a stalled front that may kick up a spin up here. Look at the heavy rain ensuing here across much of the Ohio Valley, Northeast, Midwest. Many areas getting right past that 1.5 inches to as much as 3, with some areas, especially in the yellow zones here, eclipsing 4 inches. All right, so let's take a look at the GFS here. Yeah, there's that classic ring of fire. It takes us through the 29th and then right into that first part of July. Gets us right through July 4th and July 5th here. Look at this. Yeah, the southeast for that matter. GFS going crazy with this tropical moisture, kind of like what the Europeans doing, only a little bit further to the northwest here, and lots of rain up through the Midwest here, parts of the Northeast. Many of these gully washers getting upwards of 1 to 3 inches. These areas that are getting into these yellow zones, 4-inch plus. And don't forget, before we continue with more weather coverage, please, if you made it this far in the video and you like it, smash that like button, everyone. Really does help. Question or comment down below. Remember, I always respond to all your questions or comments, so leave one, please. It's really nice, and it really helps the video out. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you're watching, and if you've been watching a while or just a little bit, it really helps the channel as well. Subscribe, bell notification button, and if you haven't caught my 2025 Hurricane Outlook, at the end of this video, there is a link you can click on and a link in the description down below. Let's continue. All right, so let's take a look at our upper air pattern, that death ridge, that super heat dome, basically. Finally, you see a lot of those reds going away to oranges. That's some good news. It's losing its influence. And then we get a trough moving through Wednesday next week. Look at it, July 2nd, just before the 4th. Let's see what goes on here as we head later on in the week here. Look at this. So yeah, it's a little bit troughiness. That means a lot of upper 70s, low 80s for highs potentially as well. Look at this along the East Coast as well, right around July 8th. We have a trough. Let me back that up to the 4th and 5th because I know a lot of you are having cookouts. Look at this. Yeah, there is some troughiness along the East Coast into the 4th. A little bit lesser here into the 5th. You see a little bit of light orange here. So I think many areas will see good cookout weather. We'll explore that as we get a little bit closer here. And if we look at our NAO index here, we are pretty much staying on neutral here. And for our MJO index here, yeah, it's kind of all over the place. Look at this. We're kind of starting off right around, phase 4 and 5 here. We're going to be pinwheeling slowly towards this region, towards 5, 6, and eventually 7 and 8 again. So it's looking like stormier times are ahead, especially as we get into early to mid-July. All right, so for our Canadian weather outlook, let's see what's going to happen here, because it's been pretty interesting, especially southeast Canada with those mesoscale convective complexes. You're going to start out with an area of high pressure around Ontario here, and as we just bounce this into motion, watch what's going to be happening as we go out in time here. So we're not to July yet. June 25th here. You can see we are getting some really great rain out here in northern Alberta, parts of western Saskatchewan. going to help the wildfire situation. That is some great news. Unfortunately, it doesn't stick around too long. You do get the diurnal heating and you do get these showers and thunderstorms popping up. But look at southern Ontario here. This is where we get a big storm moving in. Maybe a mesoscale convective complex getting cranking here across southern Ontario and Quebec. We'll keep an eye on it. Maybe clipping parts of Nova Scotia on this one too. So yeah, it's going to be stormy times ahead. But look at that. Much of the storm action also going to move up here into northern Canada. So it's going to drag a front here. Look at this. Another mesoscale convective complex coming out of the United States. Could clip southern Ontario here before weakening. Look at this, though. Last day of June, the only areas of rain here are extreme western British Columbia, the Pacific coast, and then parts of Quebec and southern Ontario here. Canadian Maritimes getting clipped as well. But if we just zoom out and see the big picture here, look at this. You can get a really good idea what's happening here. We start to see showers here where the wildfires have been driven, so to speak. A big Pacific system. Hopefully we can get this to move up here towards Alberta. But look at southeast Canada. A stormy pattern takes hold here as these low pressures just wind up. Here's another one moving across Ontario. And look at this one. The Pacific system does try to make a run here for Alberta. This could be some excellent news out here. So we'll keep an eye on it here through July 5th. High pressure builds into eastern Canada. Here's our last frame with more rain for wildfire areas. And liquid equivalent precipitation here across Canada. Let's take a look here as we put this into motion. Yeah, a lot of it's going to be across southeast Canada with those mesoscale convective complexes. You've had some really tremendous storminess. Now look at this. As we head through the first week or two, heading into the second week of July, yeah, it's southeast Canada here, 50 to 100 millimeters locally. Look at this, parts of Nova Scotia getting clipped here with over 125 millimeters. And, you know, the good news is, too, we're actually getting some rain out here in the wildfire areas as well. So that's why we've seen a little bit less wildfire smoke. So hopefully we can get some more rain out here, anywhere from 40 to 90 millimeters on average. All right, here we are with our high temperatures for your Wednesday. Yeah, we're still doing low 100s, upper 90s, up the I-95 corridor. But look at this. We're starting to get these 80-degree readings, 80, 85, through parts of the eastern Great Lakes, interior Northeast. That's some great news, but watch this. Thursday, we still have evidence that some 90s are trying to build here back through the lower Ohio Valley, through the mid-Mississippi River Valley. We're toning these hundreds down to right around the mid-90s here on Thursday into Friday. Look at this, though. Yeah, the 70s for highs up here in the Northeast. Now, we do see a surge behind here into the upper 80s, lower 90s, Ohio Valley. And look at Saturday. Unfortunately, look what's starting to push up here. So, yeah, the Northeast is looking better. Even some 60s here into parts of Maine, 70s here in much of New England, southern New England, and interior Northeast, 80s throughout Pennsylvania. Look at these 90s down and through the Carolinas. It's starting to look like many areas are not going to cool off as big in the east as we originally thought. The good news is we're not seeing those upper 90s. But look at this. We're getting into the mid to upper 80s here. Mid to upper 90s through the mid-Atlantic here, and just really hot throughout the rest of the country here. Into Monday, June 30th. Look at this. Yeah, we're pushing some 90-degree readings back in the Ohio Valley and Northeast, but there is evidence of some upper 70s and low 80s up here into the upper Midwest. Extended outlook from hometown viewers, Bangos, Grand, Upper Susquehanna, River Valley of New York, and Pennsylvania. The big story is going to be cooler temperatures. Look at this. Yeah, we start off around 90 on Wednesday, but look at Thursday and Friday. We'll be dipping to around 80 and even the upper 70s. Saturday, we bounce it back towards the low 80s, but look at this. Sunday, we're back towards, you know, the upper 80s, closer to 90. The good news is, too, we'll see some rain to cool it off a bit. Scattered showers and thunderstorms Wednesday. Better chance as we head on into the day on Thursday, with showers and thunderstorms likely into Friday as well. Saturday, a better chance, maybe some severe weather. So we'll watch out. Some of these storms could contain damaging wind, large hail. Plenty more weather to come. Here is a look at my affiliate. Check out these awesome, amazing maps. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget it's MeteoMark.com, and don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, Super Thanks. You can smash that Super Thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks everyone. Share that video, subscribe if you haven't, smash that like button.